asked Tyler. Tyler made it clear that he said, look, no one can know that I'm gay. And I'm thinking, what? Tyler Perry's gay. He's not going to change.
It's just real strange that he would be found at any kind of Diddy party or any kind of place with Diddy.
Because I saw you at a Diddy party, Tyler. And you were having a glorious time.
Remember when I said earlier, I've never seen so many cowards and black men in this business? I would have to put my brother Tyler Perry in that.
Thank you, Mr. Lee Daniels. Thank you, Miss Oprah Winfrey. You are not paying me equally. You are not treating me fairly. So y'all can suck my if I had one.
Everyone's been watching the Diddy trial unfold like a slow-motion car crash. Disturbing, explosive, and impossible to ignore. But what if I told you that Sean Combs might not be the only major name whose empire is about to crumble? Because now, Monique has entered the chat. And what she's saying? It's pulling Tyler Perry directly into the line of fire. For years, there have been rumors about Tyler. Not the kind that land you in handcuffs, but the kind that leave a trail of burned bridges, especially with young, vulnerable talent. People in the industry have quietly talked about how controlling he can be, how he uses his power, how he allegedly blackballs people who don't fall in line. Compared to what Diddy is being accused of, Tyler's behavior always seemed more Hollywood shady than criminal. But now, Monique is pushing back hard against that narrative. She's saying what Tyler has done to people, including her, is just as damaging, just less loud. And with Diddy now backed into a corner, facing a federal trial, she's warning everyone he's about to start talking. According to her, Diddy has receipts. He knows things that could take down people who thought they were untouchable. People like Tyler Perry, and it's all coming out in the Diddy trials now. For years, Jaguar Wright has been shouting into the void, warning anyone who would listen that Tyler Perry isn't the savior figure the industry paints him to be. She said it over and over again, that the same power games, manipulation, and emotional control people are now seeing in Diddy's case, Tyler's been playing them too. Maybe not in the exact same way, but with the same kind of devastating effect, and maybe even worse, because Tyler wore the mask of the good guy. Jaguar didn't mince words. She called out how young, impressionable talent, especially black actors, were brought into Tyler's orbit, promised big breaks, only to be emotionally chewed up and silenced if they didn't fall in line. She spoke about the gatekeeping, the whispered threats, the way he allegedly used his influence to blacklist people who dared to speak up. But instead of support, she got labeled bitter, unstable, or ignored altogether. And now that Monique is echoing some of the same warnings, and Diddy's trial is cracking open the dark underbelly of fame, Jaguar's words are hitting different. Suddenly people are listening, connecting the dots she's been drawing for years. Maybe it's not so far-fetched. Maybe she was right all along. And if Diddy really does start talking, if those alleged receipts come out, it won't just vindicate her, it might finally expose the truth she's been screaming for years, that Tyler Perry's carefully curated legacy might have a very dark underside. You see, Tyler Perry's name was never on the docket. No lawsuits, no official accusations, nothing that tied him directly to the mess unraveling in Diddy's courtroom. And yet somehow, his name keeps surfacing. Quietly, at first, just murmurs. But now, it's showing up more boldly in conversations people never expected him to be part of. There have always been voices in the industry trying to call out what happens behind the scenes, and one of the loudest has been Jaguar Wright. She's been a lightning rod for controversy, no doubt, but what's crazy is, a lot of what she said years ago is starting to line up with what we're hearing in court now. Back then, when she said Tyler Perry was a regular at Diddy's private events, people laughed her off, called it wild, baseless, just another headline grab. But now, the testimonies coming out are graphic, they're specific, and they sound a lot like what Jaguar warned about. What we thought were over-the-top rants are suddenly starting to read like previews of the truth. Cassie, in particular, painted a haunting picture of what those nights were really like. Not glamorous, not exciting, but traumatic. Other women backed her up, telling stories of manipulation, fear, and silence bought with cash. Some even spoke about being blacklisted or losing jobs when they didn't play along. There are documents now, statements under oath. These aren't internet rumors anymore. This is real. And that's what makes Jaguar's old warnings about Tyler hit different now. She didn't just accuse him of being present. She said he was involved. She said he wasn't just mingling with the crowd. He was part of the inner workings. Back then, nobody believed her. But today, when every name tied to Diddy seems to lead to something darker, people are listening. And it's not just Jaguar. Many other people have started talking about the things Tyler has been doing.
This person was harassing me for years. I wasn't working for him. In the month and the year that he showed up to my apartment and offered me $100 grand to take my clothes off. He said, I don't even need to touch you. I just want to see you. I declined.
When actor Christian Keys opened up about being harassed by a powerful male figure in the entertainment world, he didn't drop any names. He didn't need to. Fans instantly connected the dots, especially since Christian had once publicly referred to this man as a brother, someone he looked up to early in his career. But behind the scenes, Christian said, that so-called mentor made his life hell for years. When he spoke about being repeatedly harassed by a powerful, wealthy black man in the industry, fans instantly began drawing lines. And many of those lines pointed straight to Tyler Perry.
I've been speaking to my brother about making a declaration of my experience. What I experienced with certain powers that be that were moving inappropriately. And I really, it's in my bone marrow to discuss that, because thankfully God built me the way that he built me.
Christian described this figure as someone who openly boasted about having a long list of young black men on his payroll, men who were expected to be available at a moment's notice.
Once the started, I was like, well, I gotta protect me, because I'm saying no, and I don't want this person, as powerful as they are, to try to get in the way of my work.
He talked about how this man had produced documentaries, flaunted his success, and moved through Hollywood like an untouchable force. The clues were subtle but familiar, especially to those who've been following Tyler Perry's rise and the quiet rumors that have followed him for years. Christian's video on Instagram wasn't vague or emotionally detached. It was raw. He spoke with the kind of heaviness that comes from carrying something for too long. He said it was time to finally speak up, that this conversation was necessary because far too many people in the industry were being hurt behind closed doors, and no one was talking about it. He shared that the harassment didn't happen just once. It was constant, and every time he rejected the advances, he feared for his career. This person had power, real, career-ending power, and Christian knew it. He was scared, but he held his ground. At one point, he said, the man offered him $100,000 to take his clothes off. Christian said no. The man later tried to smooth things over by offering to buy him a car, as if the problem could be solved with a gift. But Christian didn't forget it. In fact, he kept the receipts, literally. He revealed that he's been carrying a voice recorder since 2005 and has recorded multiple interactions with this individual. He made it clear, NDAs don't protect predators from justice, especially when those recordings can be handed to the authorities. Now that Christian Keys has come forward with his story, it's hard not to notice the disturbing similarities between his experience and the allegations piling up against Sean Diddy Combs. If you listen closely to what Christian said about being offered large sums of money in exchange for degrading acts, about being manipulated, groped, and even recorded, it mirrors the same tactics Diddy allegedly used on multiple victims. Sound familiar, right? It should, because that same pattern, using money, gifts, and power to get what he wanted, has been at the center of every accusation made against Diddy so far. Women like Cassie have said Diddy would set up elaborate situations, offer money, force NDAs, and keep footage of what happened, turning private moments into leverage. And Christian, he says he's been keeping his own receipts too. Voice recordings, proof, documentation, not for fame, not for lawsuits, but to finally have control over his truth after years of being silenced. What's even more alarming is that the man Christian is hinting at, widely speculated to be Tyler Perry, has also been rumored to have attended some of Diddy's now infamous parties. And if that's true, it wouldn't be far-fetched to say that he might have picked up more than a few habits from the music mogul. The same formula of power, manipulation, hush money, and control. The same pattern of surrounding yourself with young talent and making them feel like their careers depend on pleasing you. What used to sound like a wild conspiracy is now starting to look like a blueprint, one that Diddy allegedly followed for years, and one that others, possibly Tyler Perry included, may have studied closely. If that's the case, then Christian's story isn't just one man speaking up. It's the first crack in another foundation built on exploitation. He's also opened up about a night that he said has haunted him for years. According to Christian, he was resting after a night of heavy drinking, something common in the industry, especially after big events. But what followed, he said, was not just uncomfortable, it was traumatic. He claimed that the same powerful man who had been harassing him for years entered the room while he was half asleep and tried to crawl into bed with him. The man later blamed the behavior on alcohol, brushing it off like it was some kind of misunderstanding. Christian tried to keep it civil. He said he attempted to part ways with a handshake, but instead of taking his hand, the man allegedly reached for his private area. Christian tried to leave, only to be touched again. That moment, according to Christian, changed something in him. He said that watching Cassie finally speak out against Diddy and describe the horrifying things she endured reminded him that it's never too late to talk about what's been hidden. He admitted that while he's long since passed the statute of limitations to take legal action, he made that choice intentionally, not because he didn't want justice, but because for him, it was never about the payout. It was about finally speaking the truth. His only regret, that he didn't speak up sooner.
I'm not blaming myself for saying no. I'm not blaming myself for almost quitting acting. I'm just mad at me for not being brave enough to say something sooner. That's the only thing that I regret.
Christian didn't name anyone in his video, but the clues he left behind, whether intentionally or not, immediately had people talking. He described the man as a billionaire, someone who made documentaries, someone who openly bragged about having black men on his payroll, men who, according to Christian, were expected to show up whenever he summoned them. Online detectives wasted no time connecting the dots. The public consensus pointed to one man, Tyler Perry. The evidence? Tyler Perry is one of the few black billionaires in entertainment. He's produced documentaries. He's known for having large, loyal teams, mostly young black men, and has often boasted about being the largest employer of black talent in the country. All of these details lined up too closely for people to ignore. And then came the silence. Despite the rising speculation and thousands of people swarming Tyler Perry's social media with angry comments, Christian never clarified. He didn't say it wasn't Tyler. He didn't defend him. He didn't step in to redirect the backlash. And that silence spoke volumes to many. After all, if it wasn't Tyler Perry, if it wasn't the man who had given him one of his biggest career breaks, why not say something? Why not defend someone who once helped you climb the ladder? Why let the internet continue connecting those dots unless they were leading somewhere real? This isn't the first time people have raised questions about Tyler Perry's public image. Long before these allegations, his sexuality had been the subject of debate. And when the Boondocks aired a now infamous episode in 2010 that mocked a Tyler-like character named Winston Jerome, fans noticed how quickly it disappeared from TV. The episode portrayed a flamboyant director who used religion as a cover for his real desires and controlled his actors with fear, guilt, and money. After it aired, reports claimed that Tyler Perry called Turner executives and threatened to cut ties if the episode continued airing. It never did. For many, all of this, Christian's story, the Boondocks episode, the silence, the pattern of similar habits as Puffy, points towards something bigger. And while Christian hasn't named his abuser yet, he says he's not done. And until then, the speculation grows. Whether it's Tyler Perry or someone else, the truth, according to Christian, is about to come out. The industry tried to ignore his story. But now, as Diddy's legal battles unravel in court, old confessions like Christian's are resurfacing and taking on a new weight, especially because one name keeps echoing around the edges of this scandal: Tyler Perry. Tyler isn't listed in the official charges, and his name isn't being spoken from the witness stand. But in whispers, background timelines, and insider accounts tied to Diddy's world, he keeps appearing. And it's not just a coincidence. Multiple people, including former insiders, have hinted that Tyler was a regular at the very events that are now being described in court as orchestrated setups, full of manipulation and silence. For years, Jaguar Wright was labeled unstable for saying Tyler was not just present at Diddy's parties, but actively involved. Nobody wanted to hear it. Now, with testimony from Diddy's trial revealing controlled environments where young women were drugged, filmed, and pressured into silence, Christian's account doesn't feel like an isolated incident. It feels like part of a pattern. The public is just beginning to connect the dots, and Christian Keys may have been one of the first to show us what that pattern really looks like. And if you thought Christian Keys was the only one raising red flags about Tyler Perry, think again, because Monique has been sounding the alarm for years. The Oscar-winning actress has never shied away from speaking the truth, and when she called out Tyler Perry, Lee Daniels, and Oprah Winfrey, it wasn't just petty Hollywood drama. It was personal, and it was powerful. Monique's fallout with Tyler Perry goes all the way back to her breakout role in Precious. After winning an Oscar, she should have been booked and busy. Instead, she says she was blackballed, shut out of the industry by the very people who once praised her. Why? Because she refused to play the Hollywood game. According to Monique, Perry, Oprah, and Daniels expected her to do unpaid press tours and keep quiet about being mistreated. When she stood her ground, the smear campaign began. Tyler Perry, according to Monique, promised her a private apology that never came. She claims he even admitted on the phone that she was wronged, but went silent when it came time to go public. That silence speaks volumes, especially now, with Christian's story out in the open. Because when two separate people, one an established actress, the other an actor just breaking into the industry, say that Tyler Perry used his power to manipulate, blackball, or silence them, it starts to look less like coincidence and more like a pattern. And let's not ignore the deeper betrayal. Monique revealed that Oprah invited her estranged brother, who had her, onto the Oprah Winfrey Show without even giving her a heads up. That's not just shady, that's calculated. That's a betrayal of trust so deep, it left Monique completely blindsided. And who stood by Oprah during all of this? Tyler Perry. So when people hear Christian Keys talk about a powerful black billionaire who kept recordings, tried to use gifts and hush money, and used his influence to control young black men in Hollywood, some don't even flinch. Because Monique already cracked the door open, Christian just kicked it wider. It's all starting to connect now. The money, the manipulation, the silence. And with both Christian and Monique speaking up, it's clear this isn't just a one person's experience situation. It's a systemic problem, and Tyler Perry's name keeps coming up in the middle of it. Now here's where things get even more interesting, because while Christian Keys described being harassed, pressured, and blackmailed behind closed doors, Monique made it clear that Tyler Perry never dared to cross that kind of line with her. And that wasn't out of respect, it was out of fear. See, Monique was never an easy target. She had a strong support system, especially in her husband and manager, Sidney Hicks, who's been by her side through it all. Unlike some rising stars trying to find their footing in Hollywood, Monique had already made her mark. She had clout, she had people in her corner who weren't afraid to challenge the industry, and Tyler Perry knew it. Let's be real, predators don't usually go after the loudest voices in the room. They target the vulnerable, the isolated, the ones who are still climbing and afraid to speak up. Monique was the exact opposite of that. She had already proven she wasn't afraid to call people out. Oprah, Lee Daniels, and even Perry himself. She had a platform, a loyal fan base, and most importantly, a husband who wasn't about to let anyone in Hollywood mess with his wife. So while Tyler may have tried to flex his power through blackballing and backdoor deals, he didn't try anything inappropriate with Monique because he knew better. He knew if he tried her the way Christian says he was tried, it wouldn't stay quiet. He would have been exposed immediately, and Monique would have brought the whole house down. It's the same blueprint we've seen with people like Diddy. Two-faced behavior depending on who they're dealing with. It's all about control, leverage, and who they think they can get away with manipulating. And in Monique's case, Tyler Perry knew he couldn't play that game. So instead, he used Hollywood politics to try and shut her out. And the thing is, Tyler is like this with everyone he works with. One actor who auditioned for a Tyler Perry project once claimed he made it all the way to the final round, only to be dropped for not being engaged enough during a prayer circle. On the surface, that might sound like a harmless part of Perry's brand of spiritual bonding, but behind closed doors, quiet claims started circulating. People saying these circles were being monitored, maybe even filmed in isolation. At the time, it all sounded like paranoia, but now, in the aftermath of Diddy's trial, where we're seeing surveillance, staged rituals, pre-signed NDAs, and performative spirituality used to manipulate and control, that story suddenly feels less far-fetched. When you put all the pieces together, it becomes clear what was once framed as creative intimacy or spiritual unity now starts to look more like a power tactic, a way to filter people, a way to test loyalty, a way to see who's compliant and who's not. And as Hollywood starts cracking under the pressure of lawsuits, exposés, and decades of buried stories, the whispers about Perry's behind-the-scenes methods start hitting differently. The aesthetics may differ. Tyler builds faith-based studios and casts Christian actors, while Diddy threw after-parties with rap royalty. But the structure, it's starting to feel identical. Now Tyler Perry could have stayed silent. That's always been his style. He doesn't answer to the internet. His brand is clean. His image is tightly controlled. But something changed. After Christian Keys' video dropped, after Jaguar Wright's old live streams resurfaced, and after Diddy's case started drawing eerie parallels, Tyler finally spoke, not to address the allegations, not to denounce abuse or distance himself from the toxic elite, but to say he was tired of the lies, tired of the gossip, and he didn't say it with grace or calm. He said it with defensiveness. He looked rattled, and that's what stood out most. Not the words, but the fact that he even felt the need to say them, because Tyler Perry doesn't usually explain himself. For years, he didn't have to. His empire, his rags to riches story, and his tight grip on his studio made him untouchable. But now, people are connecting dots. Cassie's court testimony, Jane Doe's sealed NDA, Jaguar's decade-old warnings, Monique's experience, Christian's nervous but steady voice, all telling the same story from different corners of the machine. A story where silence is currency, fame is weaponized, and the truth only starts leaking out when the empire starts to crack. Now that Diddy's legal walls are closing in, insiders close to him are starting to speak, and they're not staying quiet about who else was allegedly involved. According to sources near Diddy's camp, there's growing frustration behind the scenes. They claim the media, the public, and even certain legal circles are painting Diddy as the lone villain in a system that had multiple kings running the same kind of game. And one name that keeps coming up, Tyler Perry. These sources say Diddy and his legal team are tired of being portrayed as the sole architect of the industry's darkest corners, when, behind the velvet curtains, there were others who allegedly played the same game, just with cleaner branding. Tyler Perry, with his billion-dollar empire and carefully crafted image of faith and redemption, is reportedly one of the people Diddy's team believes has a lot more to answer for than anyone's willing to admit. They were at the same parties. They knew the same people. They played by the same rules. One source allegedly told a journalist, but only one of them is on the front page. And now, according to these insiders, Diddy and his team are preparing to shift the spotlight, not to deflect guilt, but to expose the full scope of what was happening in elite entertainment circles. They're reportedly preparing to call out the hypocrisy, how Tyler's name is left out of headlines, even as whispers and receipts begin to pile up. From eerily similar survivor stories to accusations of manipulation and secrecy behind the scenes, the parallels are getting harder to ignore. Some say this isn't just legal strategy, it's personal. Diddy feels scapegoated, and if he's going down, he's not going alone. So, what do you think? Comment down below and let us know. If you like this video, click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon to be the first to see my next video. I post updates like this every week where I uncover the secrets of your favorite celebrities.